Hello, friends. So I just got done today working the polls. I'm the elected constable of my hometown. In Pennsylvania, constables can do a number of things. They can serve warrants, they can do prisoner transport, and they work election day. But the only thing you have to do if you're elected a constable is work on election day, and that's the only piece of it I do. And when I ran, I was very clear that would be the only piece I do, since I work full-time and I have a bazillion other commitments. Plus, I'm not trained to do the other stuff. So I wanted to do this video quick before my kid gets home, because he turns 21 at the strike of midnight. And I'm not really sure how that happened, because in my mind he will always be 4, flying around in his little Superman costume with the little cape. But alas, as I get older, so does he. So I wanted to talk about community service, because community service is so much a part of who I am, and serving the community, and being the change we want to see in this world, right? And spirit-led, and I don't mean religious-led. I mean like the light in you led, passion and calling to serve your neighbor, right? And I spent the day doing watching people volunteering, for the passionate political races that are going on all around us. I have the great privilege to serve with people in the Red Cross. I do disaster response. My specialty is Category 4 and 5 disasters, natural disasters, and then fires, local fires, things like that. I'm very passionate about being with people on the worst day of their life. You need level-headed people who can be there to help when people are going through just the worst of their life. So I was watching videos, and my plan, the way I do it, is I go on YouTube and I just click YouTube, and then it shows me videos, and then I kind of scroll through, and I get such a mix between SNL and Ron Swanson and meditation witchy stuff, stuff like that. But because I had done the video about Gerry Butler, I got I get a bunch of clips about him in my feed, and so I don't watch them. But the one, it looked really interesting, and it was a mini movie about a program called Mary's Meals, and I had never heard of it. So I'm like, oh, let me watch that. And I'm usually pretty skeptical about those kinds of movies when famous people are pushing something, because I always wonder what the purpose is, or what the motivation is. Is it to make them look better? Is it to what are they getting out of it? And so I am always skeptical. No judgment. I mean, I hope that famous people, celebrities, when they endorse or promote humanitarian causes, that they really care about them, and that it's not a publicity stunt. But I'm a skeptic about everything, so who knows, right? So I watched it, and I was so impressed. First of all, I had never heard of Mary's Meals before, but it's an organization based in Scotland that's only goal is to feed children, and they feed them in schools so that the kids go to school, and they're all over the world. And all of the money, all of the proceeds from fundraising, and all the money that comes in goes to the program. And the mission group that I'm affiliated with, Nazareth House, we have the actual same philosophy. 100% of all donations go right to help people. Sierra Leone, rural Kentucky, places around the country that need help and support. And I really feel like when you're donating money, that you're hoping that your money is actually going into the hands of the people who need it, and not to some administrative costs. And it looks like Mary's Meals is that kind of organization. I was so impressed with the work that they're doing. It's very similar to the work we were doing in Sierra Leone. Nazareth House is an Anglican mission, but the main priest and his wife, they were 100% about being responsible and respectful of the culture, right? Because I have a lot of friends in the Peace Corps, or who served in the Peace Corps. They say, like, a lot of agencies, especially Christian ones, will come in and they'll dangle the carrot, and they'll be like, well, come and listen to our message, and then you can have the carrot, and you should do this and you should do that. And the people like have been trained, okay, just listen to the nonsense, and then they're going to leave, they're going to give you the carrot, they're going to leave, and you could do it your own way anyway. I like the organizations that provide the materials for the people to help themselves, so that they can, within their own culture. We have this very Western view of having to civilize everybody. They're already civilized. They don't need us to teach them how to be civilized. They have traditions. They have their own thing. They need help with food and being able to build gardens and grow things and stuff like that. So I was really impressed with Mary's Meals, and I really have to say that I was really impressed with Gerry Butler. I'm probably going to end up being his #1 fangirl. Not because he's good looking either, because, I mean, looks really are only skin deep. There are many beautiful people in Hollywood who have the most horrible hearts, and then there are people who aren't great looking who have the most beautiful hearts. Like, this is only skin deep. This is only a mask that we wear in our human form. Like, it doesn't matter what you look like. That's the saying that looking like me, I guess it maybe is different for Gerry Butler, but I don't know. I got the sense in this movie, though, that this movie wasn't about him. It wasn't about his work with these people. It was about the people. And he directs this children's nativity play. And, oh my gosh, he's teaching these little kids how to baa like sheep. I'm like, the tears start. I wanted like 12 children. And when I wanted to be a nun, I wanted to work with children. And I love children. And just watching them do this little nativity play, and how they went from being so scared to baa like a sheep to being like these bold little children, like, there's no room in the inn. Like, it was just great. I was crying. I was sobbing, because it was so beautiful to me, because hope and love start with children. We teach children to love or to hate. And the sooner we can teach them to love, the less likely they will be to hate later. And it must be so amazing to have the resources, the financial resources that Gerry Butler has, to be able to help in an impactful way. Like, I think he's sponsoring an entire school. I love that he shows his mother in this video, and my mom's name was Karen, but I didn't call her mom, I called her Ruthie. I had a 102-year-old aunt who was a pain in the ass, and her name was Ruthie. So I'd call my mom Ruthie, and the nickname just stuck. So I'm like, oh my God, Gerry Butler's mom and Ruthie could like totally hang out together, and they'd be like giving us crap for being who we are. I'm like, I could just totally see that. I felt it was genuine. Like, he wasn't wearing makeup. He was like, really, you could see he was moved by the experience. Like, this wasn't bullshit. This wasn't a ploy to get famous. This wasn't him acting, right? These kids don't know who he is. I mean, I'm sure they told him he was some kind of famous actor, but that doesn't mean anything to them. They don't have TV. They don't see movies. They don't know that he's the machine gun preacher. They don't know any of that, right? To him, he's just this goofy Scottish guy who comes and like sings and dances with them and teaches them this dance called the floss, which, alas, I am old and had never heard of it. But anyway, it was moving. It was a very moving movie. I'm gonna clip it below, link it below, and also Nazareth House. And just to encourage you to, there are so many opportunities. I do a lot of volunteer work. I do a lot of things, and people are always like, "How do you do all these things? What don't you do?" Well, I don't do arts and crafts. That I don't do. I also don't. I'm not much of a house cleaner. I don't. My house is clean, but it's cluttered, and I'm okay with that. I have lived among the richest people in our country. I've lived among the poorest people in our country. I've had a big house with lots of bedrooms and multiple fireplaces and a huge yard. I've lived in an apartment that had a bathroom and a closet. I've lived in all kinds of situations, and I can honestly tell you that money does not buy you happiness. The ironic thing was during this movie that I was watching, there were ads that popped up, as YouTube is keen to do, and I don't know, their algorithm must be broken, because I get these ads for like these skinny young women, probably because I watch yoga videos, but they're like these very like stylish young women who are skinny, and they're like spending all this money on like scarves and shoes, and I'm like, wow, that algorithm is broken, because I am neither skinny nor young, and I certainly am not cool. But I thought it was completely ironic that this ad popped up in the middle of this video, and I'd be hard pressed. I don't even own heels. I have boots. I have hiking shoes. That is what I have. So if I ever had to walk down a red carpet, I would be wearing trail runners, which is why I'm not walking down red carpets. And I'm okay with that. I leave that lifestyle to the Gerry Butlers of the world. But we all have an opportunity to let our light shine. And even if you don't have money, I grew up without money. I don't have the kind of money like Gerry Butler has. I really had hoped to win the Powerball, because I was going to buy a Jeep and then use the rest for charity. That was the plan. But I hope, light and love to the person who won it, I hope they do tremendous good with all that money. Money doesn't make you happy. I've seen it, time and time again throughout my life. Quality relationships with people, with humans, that makes you a rich person. Physical cash, you can't take it with you. But how you treat people, and how you help people when they're in need, and how you celebrate their wins when they win, those are the important parts of life. Those are the parts of life that make you the richest. And so, is it great to be able to financially provide help, to a place like Mary's Meals? Absolutely. But if you can't, don't worry about it, because they need talent too. They need people to do the work, because there are some people who are just very willing to write a check, but aren't willing to get their hands dirty. So they need both. It's the same with like theory and practice in academics. We're all about theory and practice. There's all this theory about volunteering, right? Like, this is what a volunteer should do, and this is how they should do it. But until you're scooping rice onto a plate, I want to hear it. I want to hear your theories. You got to do the work. You got to walk the walk. You got to talk the talk and walk the walk, or whatever that is. You have to do it. Also, on the flip side, you need to understand what you're doing. You need to be respectful of the culture in which you are working, and you need to understand all of the issues that impact the work that you're doing, right? So I'm a huge environmentalist, little druid girl that I am. We have to cut down forests because we have to cut down wood. We need wood. Wood is something that we use, and that's okay. But we can be responsible, right? We know from research that there are mother trees, that in the network of roots there is a mother tree who communicates out to the other trees. We know that if we don't cut her down, those forests will grow faster, better, and stronger. So theory with practice in a balance can really be transformative. We know that children learn better when they are well fed. They don't get sick. We know this, and we know that places like Haiti can't afford, the luxuries of the Western world. So if we have a little bit of spare clams, let's give those clams to those children, because then they can stop the wars in those countries. They can stop the cycle. And that makes our whole world a better place, right? A good friend of mine who has passed on, John Claude, he was a man way ahead of his time. He was an organic chemist, and he was publishing his research on blogs and wikis. And this was back before people did that, like they do now, right? And his theory was like the time it takes to get a cure for malaria is forever, because of the way that we do publishing in higher ed and in the scientific community. It takes forever, and there's no money in malaria, because it's not a pharmaceutical need. That the Western world doesn't need cures for malaria. Malaria is a poor person's disease, and nobody's putting money in it. Nobody's funding research for malaria, because there's no money in it from a pharmaceutical perspective. If we publish the research openly in open notebooks and on the web, then people who are passionate about helping people with malaria can get the research. It can duplicate the whatevers. And I was an English major, and I teach English. Ask me about Dante. Don't ask me about organic chemistry. But he was way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time. And unfortunately, he was so frustrated that he ended up committing suicide, because he had so much light to give in that community, and he was the only one shedding the light, and he got tired of holding the torch. So don't be tired of it. Like, get in a community of other people who serve, and there are so many different things you can do. Habitat for Humanity, Women's Build. Jimmy Carter, whatever you think of him politically, as in his 90s, he's still out there hammering nails. You can volunteer, you can give physical assistance, even if you can't provide money. If you can't travel, right? You can't travel to Georgia to build a home, no problem. I promise you there is somewhere in your community, whether it's a library or, a church that does a soup kitchen or whatever, that could use a pair of hands. Go be a pair of hands. But serve from spirit, serve from light. I always, tell new volunteers whenever I used to do trainings, you have to have no ego in this game, because it isn't about you. It's about them. It's about light. It's about letting your body be your human form and your being light into this world, right? We get that light from source. You can call it God, you can call it whatever. I call it God. Call it whatever you want, but that light, we either shut the door or we open the door. Open your door. Let the light shine through. Be a conduit of love and light, right? But we have to do that through service. Some people want to just write a check and be done and call it a day. That's okay, because we do need the money, right? And that's the way you want to serve. That's the way you want to serve. That's cool. But it's always better if you can have balance and do a little bit of each, a little bit of both. So I am wishing all of you all the very best in light and love. I am off to watch Weird, the Yankovic story. I always tell my children, never buy me stuff. I have so much stuff. I don't need stuff. And having sat with my parents when they died, the thing that they loved the most, the thing that they cared about the most in the end, wasn't the stuff they had. It was the memories they had made. And so I've been a memory maker with my children. And that's more important to me. Make me a comic book on the back of a Cheerio box. That is, don't buy me diamonds, because little kids have had their hands chopped off for them in Sierra Leone. Don't buy me flowers. Leave those in the ground so that the bees can use them to pollinate. We can have honey, because Scottish tea is delicious with honey. I like wildflower honey. And, try to like lessen your impact on the world in the negative ways that we do, and try to be an agent of good. So I'm wishing you all the very best in light and love, and I'm wishing you all amazing opportunities to love and serve one another. Be well. Bye-bye.